deployment of warships and the exchange of fiery rhetoric are the visible tremors of a deep geopolitical fault line. The situation is layered with tragic irony. A populace brave enough to challenge its own government is caught between that government's repression and the looming shadow of an international confrontation. Navigating this will require more than displays of force or clever diplomacy alone. It will require statesmanship of the highest order, a capacity to hold resolve and restraint in balance to see the immediate crisis and the human dimension with equal clarity, and to act in a manner that secures international security without foreclosing the hopes of a nation yearning for freedom. The hours ahead are indeed grave and delicate. The affairs of state, particularly those concerning war and peace, demand not merely reporting, but sober reflection. The recent developments between the United States and the Islamic Republic of Iran present a tableau of profound gravity, where military posturing, diplomatic rhetoric, and a suffering civilian populace intersect. To analyze this situation is to walk a path lined with the potential for catastrophic miscalculation and, perhaps, the faint hope of de-escalation. The immediate catalyst is the announcement from the American administration of a substantial naval deployment, an Armada, directed toward the Persian Gulf amidst ongoing regional unrest. Such a movement of force is never incidental. It is a statement written in steel and seawater. It communicates resolve, a readiness to project power, and serves as a stark warning. The intent, one presumes, is to deter further Iranian provocations, or to prepare a credible platform for potential kinetic action. This decision, however, does not exist in a vacuum. It lands upon a landscape already scorched by the fires of mutual suspicion, the ashes of a defunct nuclear agreement, and the fresh tinder of domestic protest within Iran. The Iranian response, issued by its foreign minister, was a masterclass in the regime's characteristic duality. The statement opened with a posture of defiant readiness. Our armed forces are prepared, with their fingers on the trigger, to respond immediately and powerfully to any aggression. This is the language of revolutionary martyrdom and asymmetric retaliation, a reminder that any conflict would not be a contained affair. It is designed to raise the perceived cost of military action for the United States and its allies, suggesting retaliatory strikes could target regional assets, energy infrastructure, or escalate through proxy forces across the Middle East. Yet, in the very next breath, the statement pivoted to diplomacy. Iran has always welcomed a mutually beneficial, fair, and equitable nuclear deal. This is the other pillar of Tehran's strategy, to frame itself as the reasonable party seeking a just solution while casting external powers as bullies employing coercion, threats, and intimidation. This duality, the clenched fist and the open hand, is a calculated attempt to control the narrative, appealing to international actors who may fear escalation more than they distrust the Iranian regime. It seeks to create a dichotomy where the choice is presented as either an unfair deal or a devastating war, with Iran positioned as the victim of Western bellicosity in either scenario. To understand the depth of this stalemate, one must look beyond the immediate warship movements and diplomatic communiques. The core of the dispute remains Iran's nuclear program. As analysts like Jonathan Sacey of the Foundation for Defense of Democracies have noted, the regime's insistence on maintaining and advancing its uranium enrichment capabilities is a non-negotiable point of sovereignty for Tehran and an unacceptable threat for Washington and its regional allies, particularly Israel. Past agreements sought to temporarily freeze and inspect this program, but they did not dismantle the underlying knowledge or infrastructure. The subsequent collapse of that deal has led both sides to more hardened positions. Iran has accelerated its enrichment to levels ever closer to weapons-grade material, while the United States has intensified a campaign of maximum pressure through sanctions. This pressure has had a devastating effect, but not solely on the regime's strategic calculations. It has crippled the Iranian economy, with the rial in freefall and inflation making basic sustenance a struggle for ordinary citizens. The protests that have periodically shaken the country, most recently following the tragic death of Mahsa Amini, began with economic grievance, but have rapidly evolved into a broad-based demand for fundamental political change. The chant, "Woman, Life, Freedom," transcends economics. It is a direct challenge to the ideological foundation of the Islamic Republic. Herein lies a critical tension. The external pressure meant to bend the regime on its nuclear policy is also fueling the internal discontent that threatens its very existence. The regime's response to this domestic threat has been brutally consistent. Violent suppression, mass arrests, and sophisticated internet blackouts designed to starve the protest movement of oxygen and the outside world of information. These blackouts are a tactical move with strategic implications. They prevent coordination among protesters, but they also create an informational void. Into this void flows the state's propaganda, seeking to minimize casualty figures, dismiss protesters as foreign agents, and present an image of control. For the international community, and particularly for a U.S. administration considering its next move, this creates a profound dilemma. How does one confront a regime over its threatening external behavior without further immiserating a population already in revolt against that same regime? Military strikes, however precise, risk consolidating nationalist sentiment behind the government, allowing it to frame itself as the defender of the nation against foreign aggression. They could also provide the pretext for even harsher internal crackdowns. Yet, inaction in the face of nuclear advancement and regional aggression carries its own immense risks. The regional dimension further complicates the calculus. While several Arab states share a deep-seated fear of Iranian hegemony and its network of proxies, from Hezbollah in Lebanon to the Houthis in Yemen, their public enthusiasm for a U.S.-led war is muted. The memories of regional chaos following the 2003 Iraq invasion are still fresh. Nations like Qatar and Oman often position themselves as mediators, not belligerents. Others, while quietly supportive of pressuring Iran, are reluctant to offer basing rights or public endorsements that would make them immediate targets for Iranian retaliation. This creates a scenario where the United States may find itself with a formidable armada but a diplomatically fragile coalition. Israel presents another pivotal variable. It has a history of taking unilateral action against perceived existential threats, as demonstrated by strikes on nuclear facilities in Iraq and Syria. It possesses both the military capability and the political will to strike Iranian targets. Any major U.S. military action would almost certainly involve, or be complemented by, Israeli operations. The Iranian regime has explicitly stated it would retaliate against Israel for any U.S. attack, guaranteeing a rapid and dangerous expansion of any conflict. Therefore, the path forward demands not just strength, but a rare and discerning wisdom. The military option must remain on the table as a last resort to prevent a nuclear-armed Iran, for the consequences of that are too grave to contemplate. However, its use would unleash a storm with unpredictable and widespread devastation. Diplomacy, however strained, must be pursued with relentless creativity and clear-eyed realism. This does not mean returning to a flawed previous agreement, but rather seeking a new framework that addresses not only the nuclear issue, but also Iran's ballistic missile program and its destabilizing proxy activities, a prospect the regime has thus far vehemently rejected. Simultaneously, the free world must find more effective ways to support the Iranian people without playing into the regime's narrative of foreign-instigated regime change. This means ensuring the flow of information circumvents state blackouts, applying targeted sanctions on regime officials and entities responsible for repression, and offering a vision of Iran's future reintegration into the international community based on the respect for human rights and peaceful coexistence that its citizens so clearly desire.